Hello everybody and welcome to another fantastic episode of History of the Marvel Universe. This channel is brought to you in part by Patreon supporters. If you would like to help decide what topics get covered on the channel and get your name in the special thanks at the end of each episode, you can sign up for as little as $1 per month over at patreon.com/MaryMarvelate. The link is in the description below. This week's tale truly begins with a scientist by the name of Phineas Thomas Horton. Fans of the channel may remember him as the inventor of the artificial Horton cells, which he used to create a synthetic man. However, Horton's creation burst into flame when exposed to the air and thus was named the Human Torch. While originally considered a menace, the Torch learned to control his flame and aided the police under the name Jim Hammond before joining forces with heroes like Captain America and the Sub-Mariner to battle the Nazis during World War II. While the Torch disappeared in the 1950s, and for more on that story you can follow the link in the description below, Phineas Horton survived the following years. He eventually changed his name to Thomas Ray, possibly in reference to the Torch's similarly powered ally Thomas Raymond, although Horton's middle name was also Thomas. He married a woman named Lynette who had an infant daughter from a previous relationship, but Lynette died less than a year after their wedding, leaving Thomas Ray to raise his stepdaughter Frankie alone, and he often coped with alcohol. Roughly a decade after that, when Frankie Ray was 14, a group of superpowered explorers known as the Fantastic Four made their public debut, ushering in a new age of heroes. One of them, a teenage boy named Johnny Storm, possessed fiery powers similar to that of Horton's creation, and thus became the new Human Torch. This proved to be upsetting for Horton, who decided to recreate his original synthezoid in response. Since his experiments were deemed too dangerous to continue, Horton's chemicals and equipment had been seized by the government back in the 40s. However, in the years since World War II, the warehouse where they'd been impounded was left abandoned, allowing Horton to break in. He took his stepdaughter along, and Frankie was eager to prove herself by helping to carry a heavy canister. While she was certainly strong enough, the floorboards of the old warehouse were not, and the aging wood gave way beneath her foot. Covered in chemicals used in the creation of the original torch, Frankie was engulfed by flame. But miraculously, instead of burning her, the accident gave her similar powers. Abandoning his plans, Horton hypnotized his stepdaughter, not only erasing her memory but also giving her a deep fear of fire, preventing her from using her new abilities. However, when Frankie awakened, naked and alone, she'd forgotten not only the accident, but most of her life. Not even realizing she'd been abandoned, the teenage girl made her way back home, only to find it empty and deserted. However, in the mailbox was an envelope addressed to her containing $1,000. Living on her own, she later received a package in the mail containing a strange gold costume and a cassette recorder with a tape inside. The message on the tape activated a hypnotic command that Horton had already implanted, making Frankie put on the costume and use her flame powers to destroy the tape. She then forgot this had even happened, and the costume was absorbed into her skin, disappearing with the flame. For 6 years, she took care of herself using money that would be anonymously sent by her absent stepfather. These eventually stopped coming, likely because Phineas Horton was captured and killed by the robot Ultron, who had acquired the body of the original synthezoid. See, Ultron forced him to help rebuild and reactivate the Human Torch in a new form, but Horton betrayed his captor by keeping his creation's memories intact. As a result, the mad robot struck down the old professor, killing him. Following this, Ultron erased the Torch's mind, reprogramming him using the recorded brain patterns of the supposedly dead Avenger Wonder Man as a basis, completing his vision. It should also be noted that the Torch eventually returned as a separate entity because shortly before Ultron stole his body, a chronal duplicate was created by the time-traveling master manipulator Immortus, and I would explain that sentence further, but this tangent has gone on long enough. Back to the story at hand, Frankie Ray ironically met Johnny Storm, the modern Human Torch, one night at a disco club. Despite her fear of fire, she found herself drawn to him and the two began dating. and seeing Johnny in action slowly eroded the hypnotic barriers that Horton had implanted in her mind. Despite her attempts to keep him by her side, he would often rush off to combat threats like the Crusader or the Golden Gorilla. She left him and tried dating other men, but Johnny continued to pursue her. After several weeks, the two reconciled and came together once again, but then one morning after exiting the shower, Frankie Raye caught sight of herself in the mirror and noticed something peculiar. The golden costume that had absorbed into her skin when she was younger, the one that she'd forgotten about due to the nature of her hypnosis, had mysteriously reappeared. She confided in Johnny, telling him what she could remember of her past, struggling to recall the truth. But then, like a dam breaking, everything came flooding back, both her memories and her powers. Although they were new to her, Frankie rushed off to test her ability to fly with Johnny in hot pursuit. After she went too high and inadvertently extinguished her flame, she agreed to let Johnny tutor her in the use of her powers. She even became a probationary member of the Fantastic Four and joined them on several missions, although she was sometimes frustrated by being left behind due to her inexperience. Now, for the next part of our tale, we must briefly explain a being who many Marvelites will already be familiar with, the World Eater Galactus. As his title suggests, Galactus is a cosmic being who travels the universe, feeding on the energies of entire planets. The planet Zen-La was one such target, but a Zen-Lavian scholar named Norrin Radd bargained with Galactus. In exchange for sparing his world, Norrin Radd would travel the universe and seek others for his master to consume. He was granted the power cosmic and henceforth known as the Silver Surfer. He, of course, was the herald of Galactus when the World Eater came to Earth and encountered the Fantastic Four earlier in their career. After the Surfer defected, Galactus chose others to serve him, including a stone-bending alien who became known as Terrax. Frankie Raye learned of such grave threats when Terrax went rogue and returned to Earth, seeking to force the Fantastic Four into helping destroy Galactus. The assembled heroes of Earth joined forces to battle the World Eater, but ultimately decided that it would be wrong to let a living, thinking being die while they could stop it. Frankie, meanwhile, studied the FF's files and learned of the Silver Surfer's origin. She offered to make a similar deal to spare the Earth from a recovering Galactus. Transformed by the power cosmic, Frankie Raye became Nova, his new herald. With her increased power, she could soar through the stars as well as the skies. And soar she did, leaving behind a heartbroken Johnny without even saying goodbye. It seems this new level of power had changed Frankie, and she delighted in wandering the spaceways. She grew to admire her cosmic master and cared little for the lives of aliens as she led Galactus to other inhabited worlds. One such planet was Tarnax 4, the throne world of the shape-shifting Skrulls, a race who had a long-standing enmity with Earth and the Fantastic Four. Galactus consumed this world and billions of Skrull lives were lost in the destruction. Subsequently, a group of survivors captured Nova in an attempt to lure the World Eater into a trap, but she was saved by the Silver Surfer, who also convinced Galactus to spare the survivors. Several weeks later, a group of long-lived aliens known as the Elders of the Universe, each the last of their race but considered each other siblings, engaged in a plan to destroy Galactus and nearly succeeded. However, Galactus was saved by Nova and the Silver Surfer and consumed the Elders, absorbing their spirits into his being. During this and subsequent adventures, Nova found herself drawn to the Surfer, or Silverado as she sometimes called him, and tried to get him to loosen up as they battled foes like the space pirate Reptile, Ronan the Accuser, and a Skrull Silver Surfer imposter, after which they shared a brief kiss and a romance blossomed between them. Galactus subsequently fell ill, weakened by the presence of the Elders within him, and so Nova and the Surfer recruited Reed Richards and Susan Storm of the Fantastic Four to help. What followed was a battle involving another cosmic being known as the In-Betweener and his abstract masters Lord Chaos and Master Order. But at the end of the day, Galactus was revived and the Elders of the Universe were freed once more. Soon after, Nova and the Silver Surfer were at odds with one another when he unsuccessfully tried to convince her not to lead Galactus to inhabited worlds. Galactus further sabotaged their relationship when he sent his former herald Firelord and the Eternal Star Fox to attack them. While the Surfer battled Firelord, Star Fox used his ability to stimulate the brain's pleasure center on Nova. Feeling deeply attracted to the fire-powered alien, Nova interrupted the battle to make out with Firelord, driving more of a wedge between her and the Surfer. She was summoned back to Galactus shortly after, and although she wanted to reconcile with the Surfer, her master commanded her not to. Even after all three joined forces against the Hell Lord Mephisto, they were unable to rekindle their relationship. She later searched for more worlds for Galactus, finding several which were already drained by an alien star stalker from the planet Vormir. On one of these, she found an infant member of the Elan race, another being who'd previously encountered the Fantastic Four. Nova was defeated by the Star Stalker, who drained her cosmic power, but was then rescued by the superhuman children known as the Power Pack and brought back to Earth. Using a stimulator from the FF's headquarters, she was able to defeat the Star Stalker and regain her energy. From this, she received an excess of power from her foe and went on a rampage, but Power Pack and the Elan child were able to restore her to her proper Nova form. For some time, she would continue to serve Galactus and had encounters with heroes from her home planet. At one point, the Silver Surfer returning to her again, wishing to impress upon her the importance of life. He brought her to primitive worlds, asking if she would be willing to sacrifice them to Galactus, which she confirmed. But the last of these that they visited was actually the Earth, as the Surfer had combined their powers to bring them back in time. After being brought back to the present, Nova was left to reassess her priorities with what worlds she chose for Galactus. When he consumed another inhabited world, she asked him to allow its people to evacuate, but Galactus refused. She also encountered surviving members of the Kahilla, a race whose planet Nova had led Galactus to. She tried to help them find a new home, but not all survived the journey. During the Magus' Infinity War, Galactus ordered Nova to recruit Doctor Strange to help them track a mystical energy source that threatened all of existence. During these events, Nova confided in the Surfer, admitting her guilt over what she had done. She had also lost her reverence for Galactus, realizing that living things were all like insects to him. Following the Infinity War, while searching for a new planet for Galactus to feast on, the only suitable one she could find in a particular area was also inhabited. She attempted to save this world by denying that any suitable targets were in the system, but Galactus saw through her lie. Nova was cast out and her position as Herald was taken over by a brutal executioner named Morg. The Surfer and Firelord subsequently found an amnesiac Nova working as an exotic dancer on the planet Calculex. After he helped her regain her memories, Nova joined the Silver Surfer, helping him recruit Terrax the Tamer and yet another former Herald of Galactus known as the Airwalker in a quest to defeat Morg. However, in the ensuing battle, Nova was fatally wounded by an energy blast from their enemy and died. In the end, the mission was a success, and although the Surfer did not plan on killing Morg, Terrax finished him off. Firelord once again filled the role of Herald for a time, and Nova was laid to rest within a nearby star. She actually stayed dead for quite some time as far as comic books go, but has since returned in the 2010 series Heralds. While you can see that book for more details, she has not been particularly active since then, but will answer the call when the world or the Fantastic Four need her help. But that's all I've got for you this week. A little bit of a shorter video, but there was kind of a lot of information to sort through for this one, so if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, share the video, and subscribe for more marvelous content. Be sure to leave a comment letting me know what Marvel hero or villain you want to hear about next, and as always, the issues referenced in this video are listed in the description below if you would like to read them for yourself, as well as links to other places you can find me, including my Patreon page, where for only $1 a month you can get your name in these special thanks here. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!